Hi, AP Psych students. Mrs. Polacek here from Hinsdale South High School. Today we're going to be going over the 2016 free response about Danny. Again, I graded this one in 2016, so I read quite a few of them, and I'll be giving you some reflections on the scoring. Space, order, define, apply. I highly encourage that. It helps the reader, it helps you, and we're going to be going over some examples. I would encourage you to try this question on your own. So if you would like to pause the video, you should be able to write the question out on your own. So this is the 2016 free response question. So it says, in a geography course, Danny is required to learn capital cities of every country in the world. At the end of the semester, the professor will randomly select 20 countries and give each student an oral quiz on the capital cities in the front of the class. Part A, explain how with this task. And again, definitions alone will not score, but I do want to encourage they can help us understand what you're talking about if you connect it back to the prompt. So distributed practice, you may not from your textbook, however, you could take a legitimate guess, and a lot of people got this correct because what they said was, again, it was spacing out your practice. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. This is an easy point, and mnemonic device is also an easy point. Those are the kind of easy points from this question. A mnemonic device, secondary reinforcer, big five trait of conscientiousness. Part B, explain how each of the following might hinder, again, that key word, Danny's success with this task. Definitions alone will not score, but again, they can help you. Retroactive interference, there's a certain mnemonic that you might want to use to help you here. Self-fulfilling prophecy, and the sympathetic nervous system. Again, hinder is the key word. I do predict that what you'll see on the 2020 free response is that you'll see a stats question of some sort, and then you will see some sort of question like this that has to do with a broad range of terms. So I do think that they will continue with that type of pattern, and that's what it's been for the past few years. So let's look at the answers, the scoring rubric. Note spelling, grammar mistakes, again, do not penalize you, but they should be complete sentences. You want to write neat. Again, you want to make sure that you underline the word that you're talking about and going in order. It says, again, incorrect definitions does not negate a correct score or a correct explanation. A point within a student will not penalize for misinformation, and you can read the rest on your own. So part A, distributed practice. You need to talk about students must indicate studying that is spaced out or spread out over a time period for greater success. If you talk about the spacing effect, that does score. Not cramming, again, is going to score. But again, you have to talk about specifically those types of things, not grouping or chunking. That is not the correct answer. Next, a memory technique or memory aid, acronym, method of loci. Literally, you can name any type of memory device here, and lots of kids gave examples. Like, for instance, they gave a couple of city names and then connected them with their capitals. They came up with some sort of acronym. You didn't necessarily need to do that, but people did that as an example and showing that they were connecting it to the prompt. Point 3, secondary reinforcer. Key thing here is it must be previously administered, meaning before, okay, the actual test. So it can't be after. It says do not score, treat, prize, or award after you pass the test. It has to be something that occurs before. So something like, it says students' response must include a previously administered secondary reinforcer such as money, grades, praise as a way of helping Daddy succeed on the test. So again, it says do not score references to primary reinforcers. And again, something you might say is that he's going to study really hard because he wants the grade on the test. Again, he's studying, showing that he's doing it before the actual task, okay? Or he's doing it for the admiration of, again, his teacher that he got, he wanted to keep on making sure he didn't disappoint him, something like that. So that's the key thing. You can't talk about doing it after the fact. Next, point 4, big 5 trait of conscientiousness. It must be an enduring characteristic, meaning it's a long-term personality trait. It's not just something for that test. So it could be organization, discipline, diligence, responsibility, industrious. Okay, these are not an end-all list. But again, saying he's organized is good. All right, but saying it's a temporary thing, he's just doing it for that time period, not good enough. Part B is hinder. Okay, so part B is hinder. Okay, retroactive interference. If you don't know the acronym or the PORN acronym, you should ask your teacher about that. So here is where it would actually come into play. So retroactive, using my mnemonic, is new blocks old. And so you would talk about how learning new information may impair old. So if I was studying last night, my information from 2 weeks ago might have disappeared or been blocked. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Again, this is going to hurt him. He thinks he's not going to do well, and so this is going to hinder his performance. He's not going to study as hard. So again, he has to have a negative expectation. And lastly, point 7. Key thing here about anything about the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous systems. If you ever see something about a nervous system on the test, you need to make sure you mention what it does. Something specific with the body. For instance, increased heart rate, blood pressure, sweating, it has to do something to his body, and you have to mention, you could say adrenaline, that's fine, increasing adrenaline. But again, you need to make sure you say something specific about the body because you will not get the point. You could talk about fight or flight, that's great, okay? If you just say nervousness, that's not enough. You say stress, too general. You need to give a very specific bodily reaction. I've seen this on multiple fear responses that I've graded, and a lot of kids lose out on points because they don't talk about a specific body reaction. All right, so let's look at the first couple of fear responses and kind of go through. Again, no space. They are going in order, which is good, and we'll see if they define and apply. So it starts off here. Distributed practice is a practice or rehearsal of materials over time. Okay, this will help Danny because it is proven that practicing material over time rather than cramming results in better retention of the material, so Danny will better know the capitals. That would score. They are giving me a definition and an application, and that is very good. Next, a mnemonic device is a memory. Oop, I went too far. Mnemonic device is a memory tool relatively relating to the word, to its definition, or using something related. Danny can find a creative way to connect the countries to their capitals, and they will come to his mind quicker when he has recalled them. And again, this is score. It's talking about connecting two things. So that would score here, like two things that I previously know. A secondary reinforcer, when given results in the action being rewarded, more likely to occur. If Danny's offered money as a reward, okay, so it's occurring beforehand, okay, then studying and knowing capitals, he'll be more likely to remember it. Not after. Again, it has to be beforehand, and that's the key thing here. A big 5 trait of conscientiousness is looked at by psychologists to determine what characteristic intrinsic is most prevalent. If they determine that Danny is diligent, then we're likely to stick to his studies and determine that he knows all the capitals. Again, diligent, it's talking about it's enduring, it's not just for the time span, it's for a longer period of time. Retroactive interference is the effect of new learning on old knowledge. Danny may already know some capitals prior to the assignment, and as he studies more, he may have difficult time remembering and recalling the ones he already knew. Next, self-fulfilling prophecy is when you think something will happen, so it's more likely to happen. If Danny thinks that this is an enormous task and he's going to fail the quiz, then he will fail the quiz because he thinks it will happen and nothing can help. And last point, Sympathetic nervous system, aka fight or flight, they got the point here, is active in situations of high arousal. And they also talk about involuntary protect the body from danger. If Danny's really nervous, talks about adrenaline, his body will be too aroused to perform and he's going to not do well. So again, here to get the point, you have to talk about fight or flight and then hindering his performance. So that would get a 7 out of 7. That was a perfect for your response. Next for your response. Distributed practice is spreading out practice over time to allow slow, deep learning, memorization of something. In this case, distributed practice may help Danny because he learns 2 cities every day until the test. He will not feel stressed the night before, and he'll try to learn all the capitals. This would score. Mnemonic device is a tool used to help remember something a clever way. For example, Wilhelm Wundt was a structuralist. So to remember this, Wilhelm Wundt, would you help me build my structure, is a clever way to remember. That would score. If Danny uses this form of device, then he could, again, memorize in a semi-fun way. Mnemonics relieve some of the pressure of pure memorization, and it helps with catchy slogans and abbreviations. Perfect. All right, next. Secondary enforcers, something like money that is not used to maintain healthy health directly like food or drink. A secondary reinforcer, a behavior providing a reward. In this case, if Danny was told he would get $100 if he gets an A, he will be motivated to study and will do so. And this one is not going to score because it's not after the quiz, okay? Or it's being told after the quiz. So again, that's not going to score here. Next, 5 traits of conscientiousness is wanting to do well on for yourself and others. If Danny's parents support him, as well as Danny making a study group, this could help him do better. Again, this is not going to be good because it's not talking about an enduring trait over time. And again, it's not showing a personality trait. Next, retroactive interference is a social influence on Danny that would lead him to do poorly. If he hears others didn't do well and that others aren't studying, he will lose motivation. That has nothing to do with what retroactive interference is. A self-fulfilling prophecy is when a person states that they can't do something and they virtually give up and fulfills what they said about how they can't do it. And then it says if Danny tells himself it doesn't matter anyways, I'm going to fail anyways, then he's going to hinder success. That would score. All right. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight response, causes the body to speed up respiration, heartbeat. He gets sweaty and might even throw up. And this could, it says, body will kick into the state and he will literally fight or flight and run away and get visibly sweaty and sick and hindering his success on the quiz. Notice that this person did get the point. They got a 4 out of 7. Okay. The problem here is that in the beginning, the middle part, he didn't really know the terms, or this person didn't know the terms. But this person did something well. They did define, and then they applied specifically to Danny. Notice that they're using Danny's name, what happened to Danny, and the keywords helping and hindering. Those are the keywords you want to make sure you include. So that got a 4 out of 7. And lastly, the last for your response. If Danny demonstrates distributed practice and spreads out the time, he'll practice capitals of countries, then he will see better results because you tend to forget a lot of information if you cram it all at the last minute. That would score. Mnemonic devices are also great study tools because they can make a similar sound or use the object as a way to remember, and that would score. So again, he talks about imagining rich people in Richmond. Danny used a secondary enforcer as an incentive, such as I really enjoy learning the capitals of countries. I find it interesting. It's not, you may want to find a positive outlook on it. Again, that's not talking about an external reward like money or praise from somebody else. If Danny is really trying to pay attention while he learns, these capitals, he will receive greater results because he's just demonstrating attentiveness, and he is also demonstrating the big 5 trait of conscientiousness. Attention is not organized, it's not diligent, okay? It's not describing a long-term trait. However, he must be attentive and learn how to process the information. If Danny experiences retroactive interference, such as getting a concussion, oh no, let's skip to the next page, then he may not remember anything that he learned before he got his concussion, and this will hinder his success. That doesn't score because he will have to learn and process information all over again. Danny may also be focused on the self-fulfilling prophecy and want to learn the capitals, only a good grade. This is a negative reinforcer. The problem here is they are cramming things together, and they started answering self-fulfilling prophecy, and then they went to negative reinforcer, and they're not answering either of them fully. So this negative reinforcer, it may hinder his performance because he doesn't have an interest in gaining knowledge from the capitals for his satisfaction, so he is interested in gaining knowledge so he doesn't fail. Again, that's not making it clear what a secondary reinforcer is. Lastly, Danny's sympathetic nervous system is made in order to retain information. If Danny never usually studies, then he will have a hard time studying and remembering the capitals, so he may not do well. Again, has nothing to do with fight or flight, our autonomic nervous system, and so they would not get the point. They did get the first 2 easy points, so 2 out of 7, which is what you want to do. If you don't know all of them, you're probably not going to know all of them, and that's okay. You want to get as many points as possible. This person did mention the person's name. They also mentioned the word. They went in order, and they did, of course, give me a definition when they knew it. So I think that this for your response is still we should take it seriously because, again, it still got 2 points out of 7, and that could be enough. You never know. All right, so if you have any questions, you can email me at epolacek@hinsdale86.org. So EPOLACEK@hinsdale, HINSDALE.org.